So, deja vu. Cut the block back. Came out pretty good, I guess. At least it's not tight. It may be a little bit loose this time, but like I said, at least it's not tight. Tight is no good. Loose isn't so bad. I read this one thing as I've been doing the research. They said everyone's gonna know if you build it too tight. Nobody will know if you build it too loose. So there you go. And so the bore should be 0.020 over. Factory spec is 4055. Service limit is 4059. So about 4 thousandths to mess around with as far as the bore. And what I got, I measured it 3 different times on each cylinder in a couple different spots, and they're all right there at 4075, 4076, as good as I can measure with my tools. And the pistons are measuring out right about 072. So that gives me about 3-4 thousandths clearance between the piston and the cylinder, and before I was 1 or 2 thousandths clearance. So that's not enough. From what I've been reading, 2 thousandths is on the tight side, and I've seen some builds going as high as 6 thousandths, probably for race motors or whatever. So I figure if I'm in between 3 and 4 thousandths on my piston to wall clearance, I'm probably okay there. And then the next thing is putting all the rings in there and checking out the rings. And what I found this time, the same as last time, the rings are pretty consistent on the size. So you can't really put one ring in a different bore and expect it to come out a different measurement. The rings are pretty accurate, no matter what kind of swapping I do. So the top ring has been coming out about 025, 024, 024, 024, 026, 25, 25, 26. So within a thousandth or two, same thing I'm getting on the bore. Now it's quite a bit looser than the stock. Stock is pretty tight, like 19 or something, 019. With the service limit being up at 050. So I'm well below what they would describe as a service limit. I've been seeing a lot of builds, and that's kind of not too bad of a place, I guess, to be for a top ring gap. Now where the weirdness comes in, Molly, on their suggested chart for their ring gaps, they want the second ring to be a little bit tighter than the top, and that's the way it came. I got about 1 thousandths consistently tighter on the second ring. 24, 23, 265, 2524, 2423. So 1 or 2 thousandths tighter on the second ring. And everything I read, they always say you want the second ring to be looser than the top, unless you're going forced induction, which this is. It's a turbo motor, and they say it doesn't matter after that. So I'm not an engine builder. I don't know what to do. Everyone always says, well, follow the piston's manufacturer suggestion. Well, that's what they suggest. That's how it came, and that's how it is. So I'm probably going to do a little bit more research. Whether or not people think that's okay or not. If not, I gotta go buy a ring grinder and open up that second ring 1 or 2 thousandths and at least make it the same as the top, if not just 1 thousandths bigger. And the second ring service limit for the factory is about 0.53, so I would be well below the service limit. For the oil ring, I'm getting about 0.19, 0.18, 0.17, so within 2 or 3 thousandths on the oil ring. And I get a minimum, they suggest a minimum no less than 0.15, so I feel like I'm pretty good as far as the minimum goes on the oil ring. And this one here, what do we got here? There's the oil control ring production value. So a little bit tighter than what I got. It comes out at in between 0.005 and 0.013 or 0.13. And they say it's no good. Oil control ring service limit 0.047. So way below the service limit for the factory, what they recommend on that oil ring. So I think I'm good. I'm stressing out too much on crap. And I really doubt I'm going to have to grind those rings. I think that they know what they're doing. That's how they sent them, and that's probably how they should be. But I am going to check a little bit here and there. Other than that, everything measured out pretty good. And so we'll kind of go from there. Stress out too much on this stuff. I just need to get this thing together, be done with it. Well, I spent another hour or two, another day researching, thinking about these rings, make sure it's going to be good. Reading articles from engine builders, you know, both regular non-aspirated engines as well as forced induction. I found out a lot of the forced induction builds, that's what they're doing, is the top ring's looser than the top. They open up the top one a little bit, and the second one they leave pretty much where it would be with, you know, what the bore calls for. So anyway, I've heard all across the board where guys are making the second ring a little looser. There's guys building them where they're the same top and the bottom, and there's guys building them where the second ring's a little bit tighter. And since Molly and I called them and they said run it, you know, it's about 1/1000th tighter on the bottom than it is the top, the second ring, and they say run it, it's gonna be fine. And from what I've read, I don't think it will not be fine. I think it should be good. So anyway, I'm going to put them together the way it is. Top rings are running about 0.24 to 0.26, and the bottom rings are running about 1/1000th less. So, you know, some of them are 0.23 and some of them are 0.24, 0.25. And my oil rings are running about 0.18, 0.19. And Molly says they have minimum clearance of 0.15. So yeah, I'm gonna put it together and be done with this thing and just run it. Got the crank and the cam back in it. Everything spins fine, everything's good to go. New bolts on the main caps. New oil galley plugs. I'm going to put the freeze plugs in there still. Fun. So I got the rings installed on 1 and 2. And rings oiled up properly. Side skirts oiled up properly. Rings oriented properly. For the orientation, you know, Molly sent the directions where it's got a 2-piece oil ring. I've got a 1-piece oil ring. So basically you just want to spread them out, top, bottom, middle, so they're not directly together. You know, I'm making sure my top and my bottom are 180 apart. And then number 1 and 2, I actually drew a little map here. So the top of the piston's this way. I'm putting the oil ring here. Number 2 over here, and then number 1 over here. So 1, 2, and then the oil ring up here. So that's kind of how I'm doing it. It'll be fine. And they say, you know, if you've got proper clearance of your rings and the grooves, and that thing will move around on its own, those rings will go where they want anyway, so it really doesn't matter, I guess. Other than you better do it. If you don't, then you don't sleep at night. So I went ahead and did a little bit of I'm just gonna check the first 2. I know the guy who did the crank, so I'm not worried about the job on the crank, and it's obvious after checking the mains and now checking these rods. I can tell that it's right on the money, and I don't need to check the rest of them. I'm not going to. But once again, I put my gauge in here. It's just a little bit fatter than 020. So just a little bit more in 2000s clearance is what I got on the mains, and then on the connecting rods. So just right. So I'm going to go ahead and put the pistons in just the way it is, upside down like that. And then I'll put the back plate on and put it on the stand and finish it up. I'm going to go ahead and finish installing these pistons. Get this thing done. I'm just so sick of this thing. Okay, so here we go with the number 8. The number is going to be on the bottom. The arrow is going to be on the top. Nice and easy, right in there. I seen one guy, he says, doing one hard, good whack. Get that thing in there. This tool is kind of crappy, so I just go easy. And I'm just watching it. It should just drop right in there with no hesitation, you know, just like that, which it did. Piece of hair. And now I'm reaching underneath. As that goes in, you want to lift it up and go down on that journal, on that pin, without banging into it. It nicks it, and you don't want it crossed up so it's jamming on the other one. So nice and easy. Right in there. And I always like to push on it a little bit, make sure it moves. Inside there. And it does. So we're good. Now I'll get the cap on there. Which I got pre-lubed. Oil's lube, or bolts lubed up. This one's going to have a number 8 on it also. Somewhere, right there. And it's going to be down. It's going to match up just exactly with the broken part of the rod. Okay, perfect. Get this flip snug. The other one snug. Each one of them just kind of set in there good. I'm probably putting, I don't know, 20 foot-pounds on there right there. 20 foot-pounds. There, so that's in, that's on. Number 7's in, number 8's in. And so we move it around. Feel it. Feel the tension, the starting pressure, and the pressure it takes to make it continue. And it should be the same no matter where you are on that turn. Feels good. Feels perfect. So now I'm going to flip it over and get it, get the connecting rod bolts properly torqued. There's 3 stages. The first one I think is 47 foot-pounds, and then stage 2 is 30 degrees, and stage 3 is 30 degrees. So, and then after we get that all done, it's time to put the motor together. You know, the thinking part's over. The thinking part is what takes the time for me. So you gotta check the clearance in between the connecting rod and the crank, and make sure that it's got the right amount of clearance, which it does. Now when I tighten these down, I saw a guy on the video, he puts that thing in there, and you use that for the connecting rod to torque against, you know, so it's not really trying to twist. You don't really want that bearing twisting in there, so you take up the thickness, which it may be able to twist with the feeler gauge. So I just go in here and get that down a touch. It's at 47 right now. So that's just about 47. So I hit both sides where it just snugs it up good. Come back. So there's 47. 47. Okay, so we're good there. Then pull this over, stick it in the other way, right on this side. And it's going to torque that way, see, this time. Get it most of the way. Most of the way. So I'll go around, I'll do all of them at 47, then I'll finish the angle part of it. Okay, some new items on the bench. Piston squirters. I'm going to get those in next. And that's a soft metal. So after I bolt that on, I'll check and make sure each one of them squirters is pointing right in the bottom of the piston. Right here's where the squirter goes. And then right down there is where that will blow into that hole with oil. You know, it's 40, 50, 60 pounds of pressure, oil blowing in there, so a lot of oil blows in there. I'm going to get the squirters on there, and This little wheel is for the cam sensor, and then the pulleys go on the crank. Oil pump, which I got a new oil pump, and the pulley for the pump, and then the pickup tube. So I got a new gasket, new O-rings for the pump and the pickup tube. The stuff will be torqued down properly, and a little bit of blue Loctite. You can see this cam, you know, must get some vibration, who knows, but it's one spot where you'll see a little bit of Loctite. And what else? That's about it. Get this stuff on there and on to the next step. Okay, got the oil pump on there. I don't know how I get anything done around here. This has been quite an episode with this oil pump. Last couple days, I don't know. I torqued down the bolt on the pump, and it was pretty noisy. Put oil through it. Anyways, the directions say that the gears can get harmed if it's over torque. So anyways, I pull the thing back off to check on it. And sure enough, it was pretty nasty. It felt kind of hard and notchy in places to turn. So I got on the internet and I started looking if, you know, whether or not guys would reuse the old pump, which I didn't want to. But there's the old pump right there. And, you know, if the clearances are off a little bit, it's not going to have as much oil pressure as it used to. So anyways, this milling pump, everybody on the internet says don't use these things. It's a cast iron instead of cast aluminum. And one guy on there says that he did a brand new rebuild on his motor, used one of these, and it made too much oil pressure and basically spun the shaft off. You know, and that's all I see on there is people saying don't use an aftermarket pump, get the one from GM. So there you go. I went and got a new one from GM. Torqued it down, nice and smooth, quiet. You know, when I turn the engine over, I can hear the cylinders moving rather than the pump going click, click, click. I mean, it was quite something. You know, and disheartening to have to stop, order another part, especially an expensive one. So, I don't know. There's my pitch for a GM factory part. You know, if you're going to do this, I kind of agree with the internet. Get the GM oil pump. So there you go. And here I go. Move on and get this damn thing done. So, looking more like a motor. It's pretty much a short block. Motor mounts, fan shroud mounts, front cover, idler, water pump, and then a two-piece oil pan. And the harness, the small harness that hooks up oil pressure and oil sender, not sender, but the low oil level. And I'm just about ready to put the front main in there. So, after all the excitement, hopefully we're cruising along now. As soon as I put that main in there. I'm going to flip it over. There's the injector pump that goes in also. That rides off of the cam gear. Parts are going away down here. As soon as I flip it over, I put that turbo back on. And a couple of exhaust parts, and then it goes back in the, sits in the frame. I'm going to put it in the frame and drop the heads on because I'm not going to try to torque it down on that stand and it starts getting too heavy. So I'm going to put it in, bolt it up to the mounts, and then put the heads on and torque them down and start, getting this thing done. Turbo hooked up. New seal for the pressure side. Oil. And then down in here, that's the drain. And I've got the exhaust bolted on it on the back. When it's in the truck, it's pretty tight and it's hard to get. It's up against the firewall. And then the other side is part of the EGR delete. This piece here. And that eliminates this little up piece, which hooks into the cooler, the exhaust gas cooler. So we'll be getting rid of that. Bypasses that up piece. I don't know what you call that part, but the down pipe. And I'm going to go ahead and bolt that up. Snug it up. It's not going to move once it's in there. And I'll put the heat shield on it, which covers all that up. And I made a new bracket which ties this piece to this piece. See my cheesy little bracket I made. And it doesn't have to be pretty, but got a nice heavy piece of steel. Hacked it off, drilled some holes in it, bolted it here, and then I'll tie it here, which will hook up to the manifold, the exhaust manifold. Because you delete that piece when you get rid of this, that bracket's gone, and it's going to show you it's broken anyway. So both parts where that was bolted on there is broken off. And if you ever heard a truck coming up to a stoplight, and it sounds like a tambourine, and then it kind of stops, that's what that is. At least that's what it is on my truck. It always made that noise, and now I know why. And I'm sure a lot of guys, they just take that thing out, throw it away when they do that delete. But it was pretty easy for me to find a chunk of metal, bend it, drill some holes in it, and then this piece will be supported like it should, instead of all the vibration, hanging weight riding just completely on that joint right there. So that'll help. And my tambourine sound will be gone. So I've got everything done. I've got all the stuff in there that I need in there. It's, it's basically, this is how it came out. Dipsticks in there. Starter will have to be weaseled in there, in between the frame rail and all that, and then laid there in place. It's just going to make it easier in the long run. And everything else is ready. Seal went in good. This front one, same as the back one. There's a piece on the inside and a piece on the outside. So drop that in and the head's on.